Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1112 Application Programming with Java class, I'm doing a series of video presentations based on the two textbooks for the class. The first being Java Quick Syntax Reference. It is a short book, small book, about 100 pages, with 22 chapters, so they're very small. Most chapters are 4 to 5 pages. So far I've done Chapter 1, Hello World, Chapter 2, Compile and Run, Chapter 3, Variables, Chapter 4, Operators, and Chapter 5, String, which puts me at Chapter 6, Arrays. An array is the first time in here that we're talking about data structures. Virtually everything that we've talked about so far, even strings, are designed by default to hold one value at a time. In other words, they're known as elementary data items, or scalar, S-C-A-L-A-R data items. An array is not. An array is a data structure. The way that I've explained this to my classes in the past is, imagine it was the first day of class. And imagine that I was the professor in a big lecture hall where we had 500 students. And I walked in and basically had a big thing of Legos with me. Now, most of you are too young, and I don't even want to use Legos. Let's see, what do we call those? I don't remember. All right, we'll use Legos. That'll work. So, Legos. Let's make it more contemporary. All right, if I came in and started giving each one of you a piece of one of these Lego classic bricks. All right, so each one of you got your own piece. You wouldn't probably be able to do much with them. All right, again, those would be elementary data items. But if you were given the Lego of the person next to you and the one of the person next to them, etc., you could start to build your own structure. Well, that's what happens, for lack of better words, when you use an array. Now, imagine that I came in and I had 5 students, all right, and I wanted to put in their test grades. I could say int S1 test grade equals, and they got a 57. In fact, let's just copy this 5 times. And I could say S2, S3, S4, and S5. Let's just come up with different grades. So 71, 98, 100, and a 66. All right, so I now have 5 variables, and each one of those variables holds a test grade. But imagine that rather than 5 students, I had 500 students. I could have 500 of these, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I could also come in here and say this: int bracket test grade, and we'll leave it like that. That's fine. Test grade. Let's say I'll call it test grades equals, and now I can come in here and say 57, 71, 98, 100, and 66. So what is the advantage of doing one as opposed to the other? Let's take a look. So again, I'm going to take all this stuff that I've been working with in here, and I'm going to comment it out. And let's go and plop our new stuff right there. You'll notice I'm not getting any errors. It's totally fine. I'm getting these green underlines because I've got this where I'm not using it. All right. But what I can do now is I can come in with the array and I can say for int I equals 0, I less than test grades dot length plus plus I, and then S out the score for student, I'm going to put this on 2 different lines just so you can read it. And I'll put in here I. Okay, you want to do it there? Fine. I plus 1 is plus test grades sub I. Before I even explain it, let's run it, look, and see what it looks like. Alright, so let's run this and see what it looks like. Alright, I don't think I have any mistakes in it, but we'll find out when we run it. Save all and run. The score for student 1 is 57. The score for student 2 is 71. The score for student 3 is 98. The score for student 4 is 100. The score for student 5 is 66. Good. This is a for loop, virtually the same type of for loop as the one that we use for C#. All right. This is an array. These are, hopefully at least, 5 contiguous memory locations, each of which hold an integer value. If I want to print this out, I can't technically do it in a for loop. I'd have to do it as 5 different system.out statements, which would work. All right, but it's kind of a pain. Now, let's just take this for now, and we're going to comment this one out. What if I don't know in advance how big my array will be? I can say new int bracket bracket. Now, it's probably going to give me some errors down here, but that's okay. Oh, I've got to give it a number in here. I do have to give it a number. So let's say we have 10 students. All right. Then I can manually come in and say test grades 0 equals, and I'm going to get errors here, but I'm just going to try to make it easy for myself. Not like that, I didn't want to, but and finally, all right. Now I can manually go in and add them as zero, one. Oh, I forgot 2. Well, let's put 2 in here, and then we'll move this. They don't even have to be in order, but it makes sense typically to put them in order. And again, I will make up 10 grades. 34, 57, 91, 88, 73, 66, 13, 99, 100. Let's say the last 2 both got 100. All right. Now, I'm not changing this at all, if you've noticed. And I'm going to run this again. And there are my student grades. Plus, if I very quickly want an average grade, all right, I've got all this, but I can also come in here and say this. let's make this double. We'll call it test AVG equals 0.0 and int sum equals 0. Alright, so as I'm adding these, I'm going to add them to sum. So sum plus equals test grades sub I. And then finally, when I get out, I want to come in here and say test average equals sum divided by the name of the array, test grades, dot length. Alright, now I'm going to have an int divided by an int. Okay, and I do want to hold on to the decimal portion, so I will float this. And then finally, I will say S out. The average grade was plus test AVG. So let's check that out. All right, there are our grades, and the average is a 72.1. All right. So why am I taking all the time to show you all this? Well, I've tried showing you a few things. One is that you can create an array, as we looked at before, and put the values in right away. Or we can just give it a size and fill them up one at a time. Plus, there is a length property that we can use on this. And finally, that arrays were meant to work hand in hand with for loops. All right, Java arrays are what are called early binded or compile time binded. What that means is when the array is declared, the system has to know how many memory locations to put aside for it. Now, rather than an array, there is something called an array list. And with an array list, that can actually grow and shrink as the program is running. Don't think we talk about that yet in here. So there was the array. You can do it this way or this way. This is more the C programming language way. Most people do it like this. I showed you the allocation. I showed you the assignment. You can have multi-dimensional arrays, which are arrays of more than one dimension. They go in a row-column order. It never ceases to amaze me that people have a problem understanding multi-dimension arrays, yet when you show them a spreadsheet, they have no problems with it. And what's a spreadsheet? Well, it's rows and columns. It's a two-dimensional array. All right, they do talk about array lists in here. And notice, when you talk about array lists, you can give it a size when you create it. All right, but it says, again, with arrays, their length is fixed. So once you do that, boom, it's fixed. When you need something resizable, let's assume, for example, I constantly have people adding to my class and dropping the class. I can use an array list. If I create an array list, two things are different between an array and an array list. One is the things that go into the array must all be of the same type. In an array list, they don't have to be. And an array is fixed. The size is fixed at compile time. An array list is set at runtime, so it can grow and shrink. So I can add things to it. I can change things that are in it. I can remove things from it, etc. And you're going to see more examples of this as we go on. All right? But I think for now that's about enough for arrays, and I'll come back in just a couple minutes and talk to you about conditionals.